Greetings. And yes, we are here. It's the Motivator here. This is where we translate our words into action and where success is ours for the taking. Yes, and that you have to believe. That is certain. That is absolutely true. Success is yours for the taking. You create the success. It doesn't just fall into your hand. Maybe occasionally, by chance, but you create success for yourself. It's the Motivator here. Translate these great words into action. How are you feeling, people? Well, I'm feeling fantastic. I'm feeling outstanding. I'm feeling elated. It's been a fantastic few days. I'm feeling really, really good following our last podcast. You've got to give it to those members of the Pan-Africanist community who have taken the strategic lead to bring all Pan-Africanists across the world under a single treaty. So we speak as one. After all, is it not the truth? The whole purpose of Pan-Africanism is African unity, yeah, both home and abroad. Home and abroad. And if those in the diaspora are not able to exhibit that unity, how can we expect that of our peoples on the continent? Please, Joe. Yeah? How can we expect that of them? So we have to set that example. African unity is a must. And that's the great man, Marcus Garvey, would have said, that we will create a civilization that will astonish the world. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm going to keep talking about this particular subject for consistently this particular year. But this is the year for true unity, because in unity is strength. I say again, in unity is strengths. Okay, it means that, of course, we'll have to set aside some of our egos. Oh yes, oh, I get it. Some of our egos, some of our entrenched positions. Yes, we need to give something to the core, to the center. Yeah, our contribution to give up something so that we gain far more in return, and that's unity. And you don't have to be an African, he says, to have this viewpoint. You simply need to be a conscious human being and care about humanity, because eventually humanity will need to become unified. Yeah, I suspect not under a capitalist system, I might add, just for the record, okay, but under a system that rewards, dedication, compassion, ethics, yeah, high civilization, that acknowledges one's humanity, yeah, and doesn't see a physical or a mental fault as being a negative, but sees it as being an opportunity for you to realize your other abilities. Then we respect each other, yeah, that's real humanity. But in order to get there, each of the ethnic groups that make up humanity, because we are a single race, has got to find amongst themselves, unity of intent, of purpose, in action. There you go. So I want to congratulate my guest of last week, Sivir. Wasn't he a remarkable human being? Totally dedicated to the cause. Okay, in this case, in Africa unity. I expect amongst Asia unity eventually. Yeah, but African unity. And if you haven't signed the treaty, yeah, I mean, in fact, put the details up on the screen. Yeah, in fact, I will do that now. Why not? Why not? As we are feeling that empowered today, let me set out the let me do this. There we go. Put on the screen. There we go. Some of you recall some of these details here from the last transmission. Let me just bring this down here for you. Bring this down. There you go. You remember the Pan-African Treaty of the sixth region diaspora. You remember? Yeah. That was the core discussion, to bring those Pan-Africanists, those Africans worldwide, under a single unified treaty. So we speak with one voice. Yeah. And we take up those vacant seats in the AU's agencies. Yep, 20 seats are available in the particular agency we discussed at our last transmission. I just want to remind you of the significance of this treaty, yeah, of the sixth region of the diaspora, the sixth region being the diaspora region of the AU. And I'm just going to quickly read it because I've got a lot to do in this particular podcast, but it's important for you to understand why my enthusiasm, based upon the feedback and actions of those I've encountered, is extremely high, regardless of that person in that house in Washington who would wish to say otherwise. Let me read on. And this is the core articles of the treaty that all Pan-Africanists, those who seek unity amongst Africans globally, worldwide. Here is the objective. I'll quickly read them out to you. Then I'll need to get on to the other parts of this podcast. I'll read it out. First schedule in the objective is this. The signatories, parties, recognize and affirm the shared vision of fostering unity, cooperation, collective progress amongst all organizations and individuals representing the African diaspora. Okay, that's even the latter-day diaspora and the more recent contemporary diaspora. 2, to provide the capacity for the African diaspora to speak with one voice in world affairs. Absolutely. 3, to uphold and maintain collective unity of purpose and collective action as the sixth region of the African Union. 4, support to ensure the full integration of the African diaspora as the sixth region of the African Union. Absolutely. 5, promote African-centric education, history, cultural preservation in both Africa and the diaspora. Perfect. 6, promote and support programs geared towards decolonization of education systems. And absolutely, we need a few more here in Britain, that's for sure, okay? Absolutely, absolutely. 7, African language revival to support learning and usage of African languages in diaspora communities, without a shadow of a doubt. Absolutely. 8, to support an established framework ensuring the full, fair and transparent participation of the African diaspora in the ECOSAT, at the ECO-SOCC elections every 4 years. And lastly, to uphold the principles of democracy, representation and legitimacy in African Union affairs. Now, I have to inquire, who amongst us could object to those tenets? Who amongst us could object? I ask again, who amongst you could object? And if you're viewing this live, and you have the ability to comment in the comment section, I can see your comments immediately. I welcome your feedback. If there's any aspect of what I've just read out that is objectionable, you have reason to question its sincere intent. I'd love to hear from you. But we have an opportunity here to create a unified front, to counter historic legacies of division and rule by others. Yeah? We have the opportunity to build foundations that our children's will benefit. We have the opportunity to create new vision for the future, ambitious visions for the future. We have the opportunity to be in our own right minds finally. Yes, our own right minds. And think as we are intended to think. Bearing in mind the first peoples of the world. All peoples are ultimately African. Yeah? All ethnicities of African ethnicities. These regional variations above regional variations, they're an indication of the vibrancy, the strength of the African genes worldwide. Okay. Literature, mathematics, philosophy, science, astrology. Yeah. They've tried to suppress it for a very long time, but the phoenix is rising. Yeah. The lion is rising. The lion is indeed roaring. Praise Jah, Rastafari. Long may you continue to rise. Praise be, praise be. Now, let's get this podcast fully underway. Hey, 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 hey. The ancestors are watching. They are truly watching. And I know they are smiling. Praise be, praise be. All right, all right. I now must address the issue of health. Health, of course, is our highest wealth in any truly civilized environment. Our health is our highest wealth. Health, both physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. These are fundamentals, and there should not be a price on maintaining good health, both physical, mental, and spiritual health. There should not be a price. It has to be an immoral society that places a price on one's health, physical, mental, and spiritual health. An immoral society. Okay. I just cannot agree with such a concept. I do not agree with the current concept that in order to have good health, you have to pay for it. And if you don't have the ability to pay for it, you do not have good health. You do not have good access to good healthcare. It is immoral. We all should consider this as being immoral. And we need to change this state of affairs. But I assert there are far too many human beings who are weighed down with illnesses, weighed down with ill health, because we collectively are not taking care of our fellow men, women, children, elderly. We must take care of all human beings, not just our ethnic groupings. We must take care of all human beings and display a moral courage to do so in the face of intense, negative, I'd say evil intent. We must raise our consciousness so we can see each other as equals, as simply human beings. And for this reason, in each of my podcasts, there'll be a small section devoted to our health and well-being. And I want you to consider your health and well-being. Are we using London as the example? But London has characteristics which are common to both cities, capital cities, towns, villages, worldwide. A little bit what I'm about to say, what you'll see shortly, will reflect your circumstances. But I want you to listen carefully to what the professor says. Yeah, I'm just I'm just a local Bob. But the professor has devoted his life to helping people, to understanding the issues that affect people's health. He's absolutely against the health inequalities that are prevalent in all of our societies worldwide. We as a species, as a race, can do better. We should do better. I'm going to advocate that we will do better by raising the awareness, the consciousness of the issues to do with our health and well-being. And if just a few of you, a few hundred, a few thousand of you respond positively, then that's the essence, that's the source of a wave of change worldwide. But you've all got to do it, not just myself. But these messages are relatively simple messages, but they are profound and relevant messages. Even if you are rich right now and you are able to access the best healthcare in the world, I realize that. I just wish you guys would pay a little more of tax, he says, and give far more of your wealth to helping those human beings, your fellow human beings, who need that support. I just wish more of you could do so. Anyway, I'm going to share with you this short video, and I wish you to make a decision to choose a healthy lifestyle. The Motivator Show, the internet's most inspirational podcast. Every Saturday morning from 8 to 10 a.m. I choose a healthy lifestyle. I will relax and when possible attend a spa. I will eat healthy food and drink appropriate amount of water each day. I will exercise and maintain fitness. I will not be afraid of doctors and seek out medical examination when I need it. I will promote good mental health because it's important to me. I deserve to be happy. London is United Kingdom capital city. It is amongst the most cosmopolitan in the world. It possesses all possible extremes, including in wealth, cultural and religious diversities. The main causes of illness and premature death in London, like the rest of the United Kingdom, are coronary heart disease, strokes, cancers, and respiratory diseases. Other key health challenges in London include tuberculosis, issues relating to sexual health, including HIV/AIDS, mental health, and drug and alcohol misuse. It is likely that these issues and diabetes and obesity will continue to be priorities over the next 10 years. As London's diverse population increases, there's also likely to be an increase in diseases which are more prevalent in some Black and ethnic minority communities, such as high blood pressure and renal diseases. I choose a healthy lifestyle. I will relax and when possible attend a spa. I will eat healthy food and drink appropriate amount of water each day. I will exercise and maintain fitness. I will not be afraid of doctors and seek out medical examination when I need it. I will promote good mental health because it's important to me. I deserve to be happy. London currently has high levels of health inequalities, with unacceptable variations in infant mortality and life expectancy across the capital. Tackling these issues is likely to remain a key challenge over the next 10 years. London is United Kingdom's capital city. It is amongst the most cosmopolitan in the world. It possesses all possible extremes, including in wealth, cultural and religious diversities. The causes of health inequalities are similar to those that determine health in general, including, for example, housing conditions, employment opportunities, environmental factors such as pollution, the amount of exercise undertaken, one's diet and smoking, and access to health services. I choose a healthy lifestyle. I will relax and when possible attend a spa. I will eat healthy food and drink appropriate amount of water each day. I will exercise and maintain fitness. I will not be afraid of doctors and seek out medical examination when I need it. I will promote good mental health because it's important to me. I deserve to be happy. Public health priorities. Life expectancy is stalling and health inequalities are widening. After a century of increases, the decades prior to COVID-19 pandemic saw improvement in life expectancy amongst the UK population stall. For some, these improvements went into reverse. Between 2010 and 2012 and 2016 and 2018, life expectancy among women living in the most deprived 10% of areas of England fell, with the largest increases in the northeast. The diseases now most prevalent within the communities include diabetes, high blood pressure, heart conditions, cardiovascular diseases, lung disease, cancers, and obesity. London is United Kingdom's capital city. It is amongst the most cosmopolitan in the world. It possesses all possible extremes, including in wealth, cultural and religious diversities. Professor Kevin Fenton, CBE. Kevin Fenton is the president of the Faculty of Public Health. He's also a senior public health expert and infectious disease epidemiologist who has worked in a variety of public health executive leadership roles across government and academia in the United Kingdom and internationally. His specialist interests are in tackling health inequalities, infectious disease prevention and control, climate justice, and urban health. Professor Fenton is the Regional Director for London in the Office for Health Improvement and Disparities within the Department of Health and Social Care. Within this role, he's also the Statutory Public Health Advisor to the Mayor of London and the Greater London Authority and the Regional Director of Public Health for NHS London. He is also the Government Chief Advisor on HIV and Chair of the HIV Action Plan Implementation Steering Group for England. Professor Kevin Fenton says, I'm a public health director. Here are 5 things you can do to improve your health. 1. Mindful and balanced eating. Nourish wisely. Eat whole, balanced meals with awareness to support energy and well-being. 2. Get outside. Be with nature. Time outside reduces stress, improves mood, and strengthens your connection to the world. 3. Stay curious, stay engaged, explore new interests, keep your mind sharp, build social contacts, and boost your happiness. 4. Get active, move it or lose it. Move daily, lift weight, and do cardio. Exercise, improve physical, mental, mood, and energy. 5. Prioritize rest and sleep. Disconnect, rest. Quality sleep supports mental clarity, emotional balance, and overall health. I choose a healthy lifestyle. I will relax, when possible, attend a spa. I will eat healthy food and drink appropriate amount of water each day. I will exercise and maintain fitness. I will not be afraid of doctors and seek out medical examination when I need it. I will promote good mental health because it's important to me. I deserve to be happy. Traditional medicine. There you go. You deserve to be happy. Taking care of your health is the highest wealth, I assert to you. I take these moments, I've got a public platform to communicate these messages. I see far too many people who are weighed down by illnesses, high blood pressure, hypertension, diabetes, another one that keeps coming up, obesity or fatness, overweightness is too prevalent within the community, particularly the black community here in the UK, the Caribbean, and the Americas. Yeah, far too many women, the majority appear to be overweight and having detrimental long-term health consequences. Cancers, respiratory conditions are a big factor. I will not stand by and watch silently. I will speak up. And that's why these messages are important. What I'm heartened by is the numbers of you who've heard these messages and have responded, both leaders and otherwise, who have responded positively by placing on for your peoples, for your communities, exercise classes, health advice opportunities, so that you can receive the right information so you can take care of yourself. And what I'm heartened by, that people coming together in common aim and common purpose, understanding the importance of your health is indeed your highest wealth. And not simply saying it, but putting it into implementation, to actually going forward, overcoming religious divides, overcoming those social economic divides, yeah, overcoming those gender divides, and coming together in common aim and common purpose. I want to play a very short video of a local group here in my part of London. We've come together in common aim and common purpose, and have really practiced these principles that I've just outlined, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of gender, regardless of religious affiliation, or indeed social class. They're coming together in common aim and common purpose, recognizing your health is truly your wealth. And in doing so, you promote unity amongst the people. Watch these videos. Watch these ordinary people. Some of them are quite large. Watch them and admire them. Here we go.
Cheese. Famous. Hello, 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 hello. You get one life on leave, me self get one life on leave. Why we no go use am gladdy and enjoy the time? Palava no dey finish, time me no dey wait nobody. Now why I dey try for always get am nice every day and night? This one way we all friend we safe, now nobody own. You want to eat what you want, we go down you belly, now you young. And the balance where you go die left, now all the money on. So why for the greedy you say for? Now the motor car where you let buy 'em. If you see finance where you call it bilam. Oh. You meet up woman where you
yes.
Yanam. And
Aha.
let the man for keep 'em.
They're exercising. They've come together in common aim and common purpose, regardless of religious affiliation, social class, ethnic profile. They've come together in common aim and common purpose. They've pulled their resources, that they exercise together. You've got to love them. Got to love them. Watch them. This is ordinary people, but conscious. If we do things together, you can make positive outcome. You can do it by yourself. Oh yeah. You can go fast by yourself, not a problem. But if you want to go far, if you want your achievement to be sustained, we do it together. Oh yeah.
Every day. I see they also work for the pay. They like na boku on a small you the cage. Land for the loose body 110. No to money, no to gently. No money make no time man. As long as you get waiting, you they eat. Land for the loose body 110. This one way we all friend we safe, now nobody own. You want to eat what you want, we go down you belly, now you young. And the balance where you go die left, now all the money on. So why for the greedy you say for? Now the motor car where you let buy 'em. If you see finance where you call it bilam. Oh. You meet up woman where you let yanam. And if you let the man na for keep 'em. One time food where you feel for eat na for eat 'em. That fine la power where you let na for buy 'em.
You've got to take care of your health.
Baby love you back love 'em. But if you love them all now, you not for left 'em. One time more, cause nobody know what's in tomorrow all. So every day of my life tear all. I fasting enjoyment stay go. Now for land for care for yourself. Nobody love you pass you yourself. All man they fed for yourself. Oh. Now why I know they allowed what you other man they can't take me peace away. Me joy away, me smile away, oh no, make nobody take your peace away, me joy away, me smile away, oh no.
Well done, Ishmael. Here we are. He's leading the charge. Is this happening in your community? If not, why not? Pool your resources, exercise together, you will definitely go far together. Oh. Yes, I know you. I think I may have muted myself at some point earlier on, but there you are. But I believe you were able to understand and appreciate the passion in which I was speaking only a few moments ago. It is well. It is well. It is well. Our health is important, but I hope those few minutes will serve you well. Okay. And if it saves just one person's life, yeah, if it changes just one person's regular habits, it's worthwhile. I assert it is worthwhile. Okay? Behind me, you can see in my backdrop today is in fact the capital of Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou. There you are. So for all the Burkinabés who are watching, there you are. Yes, I've got your capital in my backdrop this time. My last podcast, it was Lagos. Okay, this time it's Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso. Okay, we need to go there and do a transmission from Burkina Faso, and I look forward to their leaders and others appearing here to give us an update on progress, the tremendous progress I'm tracking in that country. It is an example for us all to follow. Okay, absolutely an example. Okay. So now we move forward with other parts and further announcement, okay? Before we address the core issue for today, that is, of course, United Snakes of America. And we're going to come to that in a moment, but don't you worry, just give us time. We'll get there, we'll get there. There are a few other important announcements I wish to make, which are important, particularly for those of you who are part of the British Commonwealth, so-called these days, okay? And have been affected by what we term as being the Windrush scandal. It's called the Windrush scandal because it's symbolic of a particular ship, but it doesn't mean if you are directly from the continent of Africa or from of other parts of the British Commonwealth, what the messages I'm about to relate to you does not apply to you. It most certainly does. Okay, and I need you to listen keenly. Some of you will be aware, but particularly if you're here in Britain, okay, that under the 1948 Act, if you were born in the British Commonwealth or Latter-day Empire, okay, you were British by birth. Whether you're born in Jamaica, okay, whether you'll be born in other parts of the British Commonwealth, okay, you were born British, okay. Up until, of course, your countries became independent, but even thereafter, if you were in Britain, even though your country became independent, up until 1972, when the Immigration Act absolutely changed, okay, you're still entitled to British citizenship if you've lived in the country for at least continuously, or you've not been out the country for no more than 2 years, any one single period. But there are tens of thousands of people here in Britain who, as a result of successive changes to the legislation in Parliament, were deprived of their Britishness with real life consequences. So if you are affected by the Windrush scandal and you've yet to, really make yourself known, I wish to encourage you, and I'll put it on the screen, to make contact with the Windrush Legal Advice Clinic. Their legal beagles were here in the Motivator show only a few months ago, but I did need to bring this service to your attention. They're based at 58 Bank Street in West Midlands here in England, postcode WV148. PD. Their email address, it's info@windrushlegaladviceclinic.com. Telephone number, if you're in the UK, if you're external, it's +44. But if you're in the UK, it's 01902 382 542. I positively urge you to obtain the advice and guidance you need so that your rights can be upheld. I positively urge you to do so. And if some of you will recall, I had an inspired Windrush victim. I use the word victim, but indeed a victor right now, by the name of Anthony Brown. But he quite rightly is seeking a Windrush Act to counteract all the previous acts that took away people's rights who are living here, and indeed those in the Commonwealth right now, who are entitled to their British passports, okay, and on all that comes with it. We need a Windrush Act. So support that campaign for a Windrush Act. Reach out to Anthony Brown, who's leading the charge. There is website address. So it's www.wdlegal.co.uk. I positively encourage you to support the efforts to secure a Windrush Act to correct what is really the faults of the past. And the most recent Home Office report into this matter has proven that the legislation should, forgive me, the report is pretty clear. The report makes it clear the previous legislation were racist in intent. I repeat, were racist in intent. It's in the report, and you recall, and I'll put a link to the podcast where we looked at that report and the specific lines where the language is unambiguous, and I'm expecting that the new Labour government will put this matter right and will live up to the creed of the Labour Party. Yeah? Equality in the face of the law. Okay, I know that will happen. I'm confident that will happen. Another quick announcement I want to make. I want to remind you of that great man, the paramount chief from Namibia, of the Herero people. His people suffered the first genocide of the 20th century, okay, in 1905, okay. Here in Namibia, the Herero people, more than 80% of their populations were massacred by the Germans. And quite rightly, they're demanding reparations. I want to give respect to the paramount chief, yeah, for setting out the reasons and the rationale for the reparations call. Okay. And I've got to say, I've had, since he appeared here, I've had time to further investigate this. I had investigated prior. My pride and respect for him continues to rise every day. The courage in the face of, some resistance, by, of all people, the German people, who really should know better. Okay. I want to give praise and respect to the paramount chief. I want to say thank you for all of your work. And I want to encourage you, those of you who can support their efforts, please give support to them. Lend them your supportive ears, but even more so, join their campaign to secure just reparations. I'll put the details on the screen for you. There you are. So support the Namibia's ethnic group, the Herero people, to support the campaign. Their email address, it's mkatjiua@gmail.com. Okay, and they have a Twitter account that is, of course, or X if you like. That's KATJIUA Support the campaign. I know the paramount chief would appreciate hearing from you. Support that campaign. It is truly a worthy campaign to support. And lastly, before I go, in fact, I've got two more, then I will need to go to my main theme. I want to give praise, of course, to the current mayor of Southwark, Councillor Naima Ali, okay, and her courage to speak about the subject of some sensitivity, and that's FGM, or female genital mutilation, okay, which is still prevalent in many parts, some parts of Africa. Okay, and in those countries where it is practiced, it is hoped that the practice will be completely stamped out. But I've had good first-hand evidence of women who have spoken to me of the perpetual pain and degradation that they feel, the trauma that they continue to experience, and the difficulty in childbirth that this practice has caused them. It is not purity. It causes pain and depression and trauma. Join the campaign against FGM. Join the Mayor of Southwark, Councillor Naima Ali, is the founder of Unshackled Duma. The email address is UNSHACKLED UMAR followed by digit 2 at gmail.com. And I'll really quickly say this to you. Unshackled Duma is a Southwark-based organisation that empowers women and girls, particularly from Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities and Muslim communities. The organisation focuses on promoting self-empowerment, autonomy and advocacy, with a strong emphasis on combating female genital mutilation, FGM. It raises awareness about FGM's harmful effects, supports survivors and works toward eradicating the practice. I unreservedly recommend this campaign to you all. And lastly, just on this occasion, there are other announcements, but lastly, I just want to remind you that we must, as a society, as a human species, be dedicated to supporting children, all children. You must support children in their development, ensure they have the very best opportunity to realize their personal abilities, okay? Ensuring they have good health, good environment, good conditions to grow, okay? Good possible education. What I want to do, therefore, is give light to an organisation which I know has gone through some trials and tribulations, okay? But I want to point out that the inspired Rodinier, if I can get the caption up in a few moments, okay? And I want to point out that if you run a facility, a service aimed at young people, yeah, at children, he says, between the age of 0, I'm a mature gentleman, he says, between the age of 0 to 35, okay. We want to make sure that those services, those facilities are in a central location so parents and guardians can access that information. Parents and guardians, therefore, can give support to you. Parents and guardians can recognize you. I want to put, there we go, put it on the screen for you. So the National Association of Black Supplementary Schools, or NABS, NABSS, okay, is a national register of youth-related, young people-related services and facilities. Their website address is www.nabss.org.uk. Email address is info@nabss.org.uk, or speak directly to the inspired Brother. And if you're in the UK, it's 07, or it's +44 without the 0, 07958 348 558. I commend the National Association of Black Supplementary School as a worthy organisation for us all to give support to. Support young people, support the youth, and ensure they have the best start in life. All youth, regardless of ethnicity. There you go. There you are. That's the end of my announcements. Those were public services announcements. I know, I recognize, but this is what we need to do in order to uphold this civilization, support each other's efforts, recognize those efforts, and understand they are only successful as by the degree to which we give support to those efforts. It's not a few over there, it's us over here that makes the difference. You are the change maker. I say again, you are the change makers. Praise God. Rastafari. Bless assured. Now then, let's go right into it. To the issue of today. Okay, I'm going to ask my guest now to log in now. I'd like to log in. What I'm going to do, I'm going to help them to get into the live stream. So I'm going to play the intro video. I'm going to help them to get into the live stream. And then we go right into this core interview. It's going to be a really important one, because we are going to look at the United States of America, the new presidency, and what it means for us all. And what changes they made in that country, and what are the ramifications of those changes, not only for America, but for the world. And this will be part of a series of episodes, series of podcasts that we will look at United States of America. Okay. So I'm going to help them to get into the studio because they always need some help, and I'm going to help you. So just stay right where you are. I'm going to play a bit of the intro video, help my guests get into the studio, and they'll go right into the live interview. And of course, what will happen that this interview and this entire podcast will be re-edited, and the edited version will really focus on the interview. But there you go. All right. Okay. I think we're almost ready to get our interview underway. It's all good. I'm just very conscious that the United States is somehow behind us. Okay. So it's the middle of the night over there, both from the east and west coast. So this is good. So I'm grateful to them. But anyway, let's get the first guest into the studio now. Let's hope that technology worked without hindrances. There we go. There we go. Oh, perfect. 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 Let's make sure. Oh, we've lost you for a moment. You've got lost behind your screensaver. There you are. Okay. Can you hear us all right, first of all? Can you hear us all right?
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Oh, now then, you're lighting. You're a bit below the now
Okay.
screen. Yes. Yes. Oh,
let me see if I can fix that.
There you go.
There
you are.
a sec.
Get it right. I believe that's one of your famous United States bridge. You will tell us in a moment. Oh, it's coming back in a moment. Aha.
Okay.
Much better. That's much
Great.
better. That's much better. Good, good, good. Now then, I want to encourage you to stay in the center of your screen. There you are. There you are. I know you were relaxing there. Okay. And I appreciate the fact that it's early morning. What time is it there now at the moment? Get it right. What time is it?
Let me see. 3:56.
Oh, we are grateful to you. Do you fish? Do you do fishes early in the morning?
No.
We appreciate you. I'm trying to get through to our colleagues on the West Coast, California. They're having some difficulty, but we'll get them in a moment. It is well, but I'm going to press on with yourself. It is good that you're here, and I want to make sure that this particular interview really does set the scene. So before I begin, I'm going to ask you just to introduce yourself. Just say the name, organization, and your interest you have in the United States. Just say your name, organization, your general interest.
Okay, well, I'm Stephen Howard.
Okay. Stephen, you got your hand over your mouth.
I'm basically a community activist, and I was part of an organization called Springfield Community, which is a computer build and repair company.
Okay.
We got our 501c3 status back in February, and I have since disassociate myself from the group because of some
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
irreconcilable differences.
Yes. It's not uncommon, but the fact that you've been part of groups, okay, recognizing it's so important that we can only go so far by ourselves, but together, that progress is both long and sustainable. What's your general interest? What's your general interest, Stephen? What's your general interest do you have?
Referring to your statement, Minister Malcolm said, if he was to open his hand and
Yes.
slap you, it would sting. But if he
Yes.
brought those 5 digits together and formed a fist, then he could knock you out.
Oh, yes.
So,
Oh, yes.
coalition and, unification is very powerful. And no, but to give you an idea about me a little bit,
Please, yes.
born in sweet Trinidad and Tobago,
Mm-hmm.
and moved to the US in 1970.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, basically, when I first started working, I was working on a three-hole punch cards.
Okay.
So that was the early introduction into computers.
Yes.
And I have it's it's mind blowing if I start talking about what I did. But right now, I'm retired in
Mm-hmm.
Massachusetts,
Right.
and the lady and I are just chilling.
Mm-hmm.
And after my mom's passed away, after celebrating her 100th birthday 4 years ago,
Oh,
she said,
congratulations. Wow. 100.
lady said,
Good.
listen,
Yes.
I either go and get some help or do you.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to do me. And I've been
Yes.
involved in some community organizations since. One of the things that I started doing was promoting our college
Mm-hmm.
because our governor, Maura Healy, she had a two-step free college education program, which
Mm-hmm.
started about, say, $65 million, and
Mm-hmm.
it's now up to $300 million. But there
Wow.
was a
Gosh.
misunderstanding as to how that was promoted because people
Okay.
thought that you had to be 25 and older to qualify for that free college education. But that
Mm-hmm.
was only for 20 million of that 65 million. So by
Okay.
me going out and letting folks know, especially high school students who were either about to graduate or who had graduated and didn't see a way to get affordable college, that
Mm-hmm.
flipped script, and the college's parking lot went from being half full to like full once people understood that.
Absolutely. Yes.
Another thing that I was involved with, they had a 5-year revolving home improvement program whereby I think it was about $30 million for
Mm-hmm.
that 5-year period.
Mm-hmm.
And by working with them, now it's up
Mm-hmm.
to another $2 million. Once people understood, got a better got a better understanding of how they could qualify and apply and so
Yes.
forth. So
Yes.
that was
Yes.
rebooted back in January.
Right.
So now $6.4 million is available just for my state
Mm-hmm.
for folks who would like to repair their roofs, their
Mm-hmm.
sidings, ramps. They even have some interior, some financing for some interior like plumbing and electrical circuits
Yes.
because
Yes.
the area where I live, it was built in the mid 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the wiring is like knob and tube, which kind
Yes.
of accommodate today's technology demands. And of course, then there's some other stuff that I've been involved with, telling me
Okay. I'm
the
going to ask you to
aspects of
pause there then, in that case, Steve, because I know you have a very comprehensive portfolio. I've seen much of it. It is extremely impressive. There's much we could talk about your portfolio. But I want to, as you know, address the issue of, well, I have to tell you, your fellow citizens of the United States, the 47th president, someone who is actually a felon, a convicted felon. Okay.
34 times.
34 times. He's a bankrupt 6 times. Yeah. He courts extreme xenophobic right wing organizations. Yeah. Someone who appears to have relatively low moral standards. If the Hollywood, the Outlook Hollywood affair is to be go by. But yet, this person, and I don't want to call the name, is your 47th president. And I read the Agenda 25, the program that those behind him are following, he's exhorting. And it's really mind-boggling that your fellow citizens would elect such a person. But let me not comment on that further. I want to get to some of these really very, very specific issues that we across the pond, as if you like, okay, okay, really are curious about, and you as an American citizen may be able to respond to us, because there are others I'm going to invite over the coming weeks and months. We really want to understand the American psyche. Okay, so the first question for you: healthcare. We here in Britain recognise that to be a very big issue, yep, of from primary concern to the populace. Okay, healthcare, or indeed, as you might term it, Obamacare. Obamacare because you've improved its accessibility for Americans. But I believe you have these other agencies, including Mediaid and Medicare as well. Can you just, first of all, just for us, us over the pond, just give us some distinction between what is Obamacare and what is Medicare? Just for to set some context, and I've got some questions on relating to health. So, what is Obamacare, first of all?
Well, they called it Obamacare because they were trying to stigmatize it.
Oh,
It's really called
really?
the Affordable Care Act, which was started by the Massachusetts former governor Mitt Romney before
Yes.
President Obama
Obama.
became president.
Yes.
What happened is, even though they were opponents in the election, then-elect President Obama appreciated what the Affordable Care Act did.
Right.
And I, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I get basically free medical coverage.
Well, hold on, Stephen. I think that word free is usually a trigger. In other words, you've paid your state and federal taxes, okay? And that money's been pooled, okay? And you're then able to access health, so you don't have to pay at the point of use. You're no longer terrified of the cost of health because you've contributed to a big pool. That's the correct term. There's nothing free, is there? Am I right in saying that?
Yes, well, like you're linking that up to Social Security, right?
Ah,
Which is
but
an
before but we
insurance.
don't get, I don't want to get confused with product. I just keep focused on health for the moment. But yes, I am in terms of how we pool our taxes so that we can ensure that healthcare is accessible to all. But just focus on what is Obamacare and what distinguishes Obamacare, as it were. Then we can then take our questions from there.
Okay, well, all right. Let me just share my personal experience so
Okay.
folks can
Okay.
get an understanding. Now, the health coverage that I have,
Mm-hmm.
if I was out of state and I needed emergency care, I have a limit of less than $500 that's out of pocket. If I was, let's say, traveling
Mm-hmm.
and needed emergency care,
Mm-hmm.
my out-of-pocket coverage will be about $1,000, regardless of what that expense is. So
Right.
the way it's set up, not only do you get free healthcare coverage, meaning you don't pay any premiums.
Mm-hmm.
You also don't have any co-pay that's exorbitant. For example, one of my co-pays is like less than $3.
Mm-hmm. I
So
understand.
when you
Yes.
see now, healthcare is the number one reason, or lack of adequate healthcare is the number one reason for bankruptcies in America.
Hold on a
So
moment. Hold on a moment. Hold on, please. Remember, I'm in Britain. Yes, you're laughing. Uh, um, are you telling me a man or woman, a working man or woman, can be working hard, get a condition, and become bankrupt to pay for healthcare in the richest country in the world?
Well, that is what Obamacare addresses.
Wow. Isn't
But
that
you see, the
something
thing,
though? The economy is worth more than what? I believe what, 34 trillion or more dollars a year? And you're
well,
telling me,
I think our present leader is talking about increasing it by about $6 trillion or so.
oh my gosh. So the richest country in the world, and it's possible for its citizens to go bankrupt
If they
to
got sick.
pay for healthcare. I find that, I'm sorry, Americans, I'm sorry, I have to say this, that's morally bankrupt. That is morally bankrupt. That makes no sense. The country with so much wealth, and it's possible for ordinary people to go bankrupt because of they don't have the resources to pay for
Well,
healthcare.
if you think
Okay,
that's
go ahead.
that is unbelievable,
Okay,
what
please.
he's doing right now is he is cutting back access to what's provided in Medicaid and Medicare.
Really? Why would
So
he do
now,
that?
because he wants to give, maybe because he wants to give tax breaks to the people who fund the billionaires who funded his campaign.
Hold on a moment. Forgive me, Stephen. And I find it with Americans, you make these statements, which are profound statements, as if they're matter of fact. You're telling me he's taking services away from the poor, from those who've paid, okay, reducing those services so that he can give a tax cut or break, as you describe it, to those who have so much money that they could not spend that money in their lifetimes. How's that
Simply put,
possible? How's that possible?
simply, simply put, to sum up what you just said, Robin Hood in reverse.
But I don't understand how Americans are not protesting in the streets. That
But they are.
again, I'm not seeing
But
anything
they are.
good. Oh, they
You
are.
see,
Okay. Uh-huh.
it's a case of buyer's remorse.
Okay. Oh, you mean they voted for him?
Yeah, the MAGA
Yes.
people
Yes.
thought that what he was talking about would
Yes.
be directed against black and brown people.
Oh.
But
Oh.
the majority of the impact has been on the white population. That's why
Right.
there are cities across the nation where you have thousands of people demonstrating against these cutbacks.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So
You
just to be
understand the
clear,
impact?
just to be clear, I don't recall him during the campaign indicating to the electorate that he intended to cut back on healthcare. In fact, I recall him saying he's going to invest. It'd be an even better healthcare service. How's that possible?
Because the Republicans have always been opposed to entitlements. Entitlements meaning it's what you've invested in
Hmm.
while you were working, and now that you are retired, you're
Right.
getting your entitlements, your benefits from those investments.
Well,
Now, when you look
okay.
at President Biden's address to the nation, his last
Mhm.
address, when he was
Yes.
talking about Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare,
Right.
uh, sen- Republican senators got up and were calling him a liar and everything else. And he says,
Right.
"Oh, so you're not going to cut back on these services? That's good to hear."
Right.
And on day one, even though during the campaign, the president said that as someone running for office, he said that he knew nothing about Project 2025. But
Yes.
on
I
day
heard that.
one,
Yes.
the executive orders that he signed was putting Project 2025 in operation.
Yes. Yes. I find it, well, he's a convicted felon. He's a bankrupt. He's clearly has low moral standing. How is it possible that he convinced the electorate there that he wouldn't simply look out for his own self, family, and social class? Why? I don't understand how it was possible. Someone who's clearly argued against some federal, indeed state healthcare services of the kind you described, could gain the presidency. What did he do? Was it juju or something? Was it some magic he put on yourselves?
Well, you see, you must remember he's been in our living rooms for at least 30 years
Yes,
with his different programs.
right.
So when someone has been in your living room for so many years, they become like family.
Oh, family, huh?
So now
Yes.
when he was pushing his agenda, it was let us get rid of these undocumented people because they're taking away your jobs. So once we get rid of them, you could now be employed. But the people that he's saying this to don't want to go out and work in the fields.
No,
They don't
no.
want to work for minimum wage, which is about $8 an hour here in the
Yes,
US. Now
yes.
there are states that have minimum wage of $15 or more, but it's not national.
Right, right.
So when you
Okay,
convince people that you can get rid of these boogeymen and then
right.
you could now fill their jobs, the thing is, what jobs are you talking about? Are you talking about jobs? Or are you talking about careers?
Absolutely, absolutely. So you're saying that the white majority population, these, when we say white majority, these are people from Europe who emigrated to United States, thought that those people of a different melanin shade, okay, were different from them, and therefore will be treated different under this president who's only concerned about money. I still find it difficult to understand the psychology over there, because clearly he's made it clear he did not support Obamacare and the advantages of bringing in what 40 million people into now can access healthcare. He didn't support that. He didn't support the idea that the federal government would provide the resources so that, as you say, that you can access those services without having to pay extra. Okay, again, notwithstanding the this initial upfront cash. Okay, he made it clear he never supported that, and he's never had to, because he was given what 200-300 million dollars to start off his businesses. So he's never been an ordinary person. You know, he boasts his luxury, his lifestyle, which is clearly at variance with the overwhelming majority of Americans. How could they be taken in, Stephen? It makes no sense to us over here. How were they taken in?
Easy.
Oh, oh easy,
Look at,
right?
yeah, very easy. Look at slavery, right?
Yeah.
White people were looking at Africans doing the work that they were supposed to be paid to do.
Mhm.
So now white people are looking at these Africans who are working for free, not
Yes,
getting a salary,
yes,
not
yes.
realizing that those were the jobs that the white people should have been getting paid to do.
I
So they
understand.
didn't
Yes.
understand that the enslavement of the Africans were depriving them of an economic future because they weren't paid to perform those duties like farming and everything else. So he just rebooted that,
Mhm.
and he bamboozled, he hoodwinked, he conned the people who supported him because it was a white supremacist ideology that he was pushing. And since they were white, they figured that they would benefit from it, not understanding that the poor white population here in America is greater than the entire black population, period.
There you go. There you are. That's a statement I wanted to hear, because it's a very similar situation here in Britain. And I come across some people who are relatively modest of income, but hold views which are quite astonishing, quite astonishing, quite astonishing.
So now that these cutbacks that's being implemented
Are
have
affecting them.
come home to roost,
Yes.
that
Yes.
they're losing their jobs,
Yes.
they're losing their health care,
Yes.
losing their benefits, they're
Yes.
losing education. Their
Let's talk about
children.
education, if I may. If I just talk about education. So again, having read this, student funding has been cut back. Investment in school and school infrastructure buildings is being cut back. I understand by an astonishing figure of 50%. He's seeking now, again, Agenda 25, to abolish the federal education service. Again, how is that possible, Steve? Am I right in the 50% cutback in federal funding? Is that correct?
You ever notice when people go to watch a puppet show, they're so fascinated by what the puppet is doing that they forget everything about the puppeteer, especially if the puppeteer is behind a dark screen?
Yes, yes, yes.
So
Okay,
what he is doing, he is like the puppet.
all right.
And people are just mesmerized by what's being done, not realizing that someone else is controlling him.
Hmm. Okay, okay.
And the puppet has convinced himself that the puppet is actually doing these things. So education, he brought in the wife of the biggest wrestling outfit right now. Once she assumed office as head of the education department, she implemented policies that cut education in half.
Wow.
So
She's
now
a millionaire. Hold on a moment. She is a millionaire in her own right. Okay. She doesn't need to worry about the cost of education for herself or her family. But she cut in half education for the masses.
well, this is like part of the strategy, because when you have the Satanists in Florida who was implementing book banning policies, which started spreading to different states,
Right.
saying that we, as people of a different hue, would no longer have our history represented in books, in
Pardon?
libraries.
No, no. Again, forgive me. Get me this right. You're saying a state governor sought to withdraw from the public libraries and so on histories of, in this case, African Americans and the enslavement and so on, and the civil
Well,
rights era.
as long as it's not Eurocentric, they banned.
Whoa! Now is it actually happening, and that's legal? Is that legal?
No, it's not. But because the governor is putting this into effect, it becomes legal, because the governor of the states have the last say unless it's a federal law.
But if I may, though, taking note of the Europeans, American Europeans, okay, um, just to be clear, taking American Europeans and their reaction to these situations, okay, what do they believe will be the benefit to them? Because it makes no sense to me at this point. I can understand self-interest, I can understand that, but clearly, if you so disadvantage of people to that extent, that can only end up in sadness. Mhm. Well, tell me, have you spoken to Europeans in America and asked them the question, well, this cannot be right. It doesn't uphold the values of the American Constitution. Have you spoken to them, tried to understand their psychology, pathology, if you like, but say psychology first of all? Have you spoken to them, Stephen?
Well, the area where I live is very cosmopolitan,
Okay,
so the interaction is there. But when you
right.
look across the nation as a whole,
Mm,
you see a lot of demonstrations that's pushing back on what he's doing. Uh, Yesterday, Friday,
mhm.
there were several court rulings that stopped him from what he was doing. So he pulled back on some of those policies, and the people who are in charge of those policies, some of them are now denying that they even did that in the first place.
Okay.
So they're implementing policies. The judiciary is saying, no, you cannot do this. And when they question about it, they said, well, we didn't do that.
Mm. But
And this is because there's been so much pushback. Because when you look at
okay.
places where the Black population is like less than 5%.
Hmm.
So when you see these demonstrations, you have to look very hard to find a person with melanin in those demonstrations where there are thousands of people.
Yes.
So it's like
Yes.
trying to find a needle in a haystack, the needle
Yes.
being black, the Black person. So now
Right.
the people who realize that the Constitution, that the American Constitution is under attack, they're
Yes.
saying, no, we're not going to have it. One of the first things he tried to do was make it illegal for first generation American citizens to be recognized as citizens.
What?
But the Supreme
Again,
Court said, no, you can't do that.
I can't.
So,
At least
so
that's
now if
something.
you're born in America and you're the first generation, like his children are, now he is saying, based on what he was trying to do, that his children would no longer be recognized as American citizens, even though they are born here, and they could be deported back to, let's say, Germany, where his ancestry is from.
Why is that good for America? Forgive me,
It's not.
Steve. I've just been told your volume is a bit low. Forgive me.
Okay.
If you can try
Yeah,
and make some
I'll try.
adjustments.
I'll try and increase it a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Um,
But
uh,
you
yeah.
see,
Why is that good for America?
but it's not. And even judges that he appointed
Yes.
are pushing back and saying, no, you cannot do this.
Okay.
And now he is saying, oh, I can't do that. Tell you what, I'll call for your impeachment.
Oh, I see. Oh, yes, got a different system over there. Right. But I understand that they're holding the line nowadays, the judges. Are they holding the line?
Yeah, because they're pushing back because he is now attacked. As a matter of fact, yesterday he had a judge arrested.
Yes.
The situation with that is there was a young man who was appearing to have uh, his legal status taken care of.
Yes.
The judge heard that ICE was going to arrest this young man. So the judge basically told the officers who did not have any legal grounds to arrest this young individual. She sent them in a different direction so that he would not be arrested because they couldn't arrest him.
Hmm.
And then when this was found out, they turned around and arrested the judge for protecting this young man who was about to be illegally detained or kidnapped.
Wow.
So
Thank
now
you.
that judge released
Yes.
on her own recognizance because she was following her judicial responsibilities of making sure that anybody appearing before her is
Yes.
protected under the law.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This does seem to hint of a authoritarian state where he believes that he's a elected dictator and can manage the American state using presidential proclamation, I understand the term used over there, or presidential decrees. I don't understand, again, because clearly those who will be most harmed by his behavior are not the those with ample melanin in their bodies, but those with less melanin in their bodies. It does seem really curious that the opposition I'm seeing, I've seen some opposition, but this is such a profound attack upon your constitution that it should not be sustainable for even a few more days. It's the entire judiciary should come down on the presidency. Am I right in saying this, or am I being fanciful in my thought processes?
Well, you see, the first action that he took, which basically wanted to change the constitution,
Right.
was illegal. He,
Okay.
as an individual or as one branch of government, cannot do that.
Of the executive,
By trying to
yes.
get rid of the 13th Amendment, which was part of which was introduced to make African descendants citizens,
Yes, yes.
he was trying to get rid of that because his reason was that
Oh, wow.
people are coming into the US having babies. They're now American citizens, so he wanted to take that away from them.
Wow.
And
Wow.
what happened is the Supreme Court says, no, you can't do that. It's unconstitutional because in order to change any of the constitutional laws, you have to have a 2/3 majority
Yeah.
by the government. The judiciary is not the one who brought this forward. So he felt that he could just go and sign an executive order and have this implemented, but he is 1/3 of the government, and he's doing this without participation of the other 2/3. And
Right.
if even the other 2/3, the other two branches of government were to agree with him, they still needed to have a 2/3 majority vote in order to change anything in the Constitution. So he
Understood.
just wanted
Yes.
to take this upon himself. And he's trying to do this at every step. Right now, I mean, even yesterday, there was talk that he was talking about running for a third term, which is
Oh,
unconstitutional.
it's unconstitutional. Yes. Yes. But um, so there's no chance of that happening, because in order for that to happen, as you say, change to the constitution would require a two-thirds majority in the House, or the Senate, or the House of Representatives. But
House of
uh,
Representatives.
there you go.
But it has to be both branches, right?
Both branches, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing is, uh, the, the the population, especially those who lack melanin,
Mm.
they basically are saying, "Hey, you can't be doing this." And what's very surprising
Okay.
about what's going on with the white population here
Mm.
is they standing up for non-white or
Okay.
non-citizens.
Oh, thank the
So
Lord.
it's
Thank
like
the
they
Lord.
are saying, hey, look,
Yeah.
this is not who we are.
Indeed.
And they're pushing
Indeed.
back. And now even the Supreme Court, seeing that their judges, their lower court judges are under attack,
Oh, wow.
they are now
Yes.
pushing back on some of the things that he's trying to implement.
Right. Right. Okay. Now, it does seem that based upon this evidence, and there's many significant details in what we've discussed so far that we could highlight, but what we've highlighted is horrifying enough that American democracy is under attack from the inside. Would that be a fair assessment of what you're describing?
Well, his heroes, the Russian leader, the North Korean leader, and
Oh,
other
yeah.
dictators.
Yes.
And he
Yeah.
did say in an interview that he would like to be dictator day one.
I recall. Yes, I recall. Wow.
So when you see a snake hissing, when you see a rattlesnake rattling its rattles, it's not
Yes.
saying, "Hey,
Yes.
let's be friends." Once you hear that rattle go off,
Hmm.
you know it's time to run.
I'm still bewildered. Okay, I live in Britain, obviously, so I'm still bewildered. 'Cause it is patently obvious that he did not does not possess the qualities to be an outstanding president of the United States. Okay, his profile alone, even to a child, would recognize that these are significant failings. Okay, is it your opinion now that increasing numbers of Americans now recognize the mistakes they've made, and next year, I believe you have your midterm elections, that they will vote accordingly? Is that your opinion?
Well, the GOP, the Grand Old Party, the Republican Party,
Oh, yes.
who make up the majority in both the House and in Congress,
Yes.
they have been instructed by their leaders not to show up for town hall meetings. So
Oh,
what's
gosh.
happening is there are some Democratic leaders who are saying, okay, your people not going to show up to hear what you have to say. We will show up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yes.
now Republican elected officials are not showing up to account to their constituencies,
Right.
and the Democrats who see that there's a bloodless revolution going on,
Yes.
and a lot of those people who are demonstrating against him are the people who voted for him.
Hmm.
So now, when they have their town hall meetings, they're filling arenas
Absolutely.
where you have
Yes.
thousands of people showing up.
Hmm. Hmm.
And these the people who these Democratic elected leaders are talking to
Yes.
are even greater audiences than he had when he was running for election.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you must remember that he did not get 50% of the popular vote.
What was the percentage? What was the percentage?
I think he got about 47.
47%. Wow.
And I
Very
think
low. Yes.
Vice President Harris got something like about I think it was either 45 or 46, but it was
Yes.
very close. But he
Yes.
did not get half of the votes
Right.
to be where he is today.
Okay. Well, he is there today. And the other issue I just want to raise with you, because as I said, this will be a part of a series of discussions, is tariffs. You know,
The most
I
beautiful word in the English dictionary.
I'm going to ask this question. Now, I heard him say the most beautiful word in the English language is tariffs. Now, I'm not a particularly bright guy, okay? I'm not a particularly bright guy. But I know that if let's say the Americans, um, we import a car from America and we put a tariff up, so it costs, let's say $20,000 in your money, okay, and we put a tariff up of say 10 of say 50%, okay, and it goes up therefore to $30,000 that goes to the British state, paid for the importer of that car. In other words, the importer here of that car, that tariff cost will then have to be passed on to the consumer, me, who eventually will buy that car for a higher price than would otherwise be without a tariff. So I recognize tariff as being, in our British language, as being equivalent to VAT. We call it value added tax, or in other words, a consumption tax. Okay. Now, I know that in the US, you have what you call local tax, okay, which are paid for some for products and services. I know, so it's not an unfamiliar concept. How is it possible for this person, 6-time bankrupt, he's a felon 34 times, he's got a whole history of dishonesty. How is it possible for him to convince the American masses that tariffs are a beautiful thing? Please, Stephen, explain that again, the psychology that he enacted and the pathology of the American electorate. Please, I'm totally bewildered this time.
That's a question to answer. Once you convince your people that the tariffs will be paid for by the people whom you are importing the products from, that they will be the ones who will be paying that, what, 50, 25%, whatever,
Yes.
that tariff, they will be the ones paying for that. That means that more money will be coming into the economy. But if you don't tell them that the consumer is the one that those who will be paying those tariffs, not the people, not the country that's selling you the products.
Right. Okay.
So, okay, oh wow, he's going to impose 25% tariffs. That means to say that now they're going to be paying us 25% more for the product, not realizing that
I'm sorry.
25% will be passed on to them and it comes out of their pockets.
Stephen, if I may. Look, I know Americans are watching, so I don't wish to insult your collective intelligence. Okay. I don't wish to do so. I'm trying not to do so. But what you described there has been a fact for not for a year, not for 10 years, but for more than a century. Yeah, and in fact, if one was one of the causes of the 20th century depression, the tariffs between nations, okay, because people could not afford it. Is it the education system there that means that Americans are not taught these basic economic facts, or is it that they want to believe someone despite his questionable profile, regardless? What is it? What is it? Is it education, or is it that they wish to be duped by this person? Explain. We just don't understand it this side.
You know, you ask some complex
Oh dear.
questions that have
Oh
very
dear.
simple answers to them. They got rid of social studies.
Ah,
Social studies basically lets you know how the economy runs.
yes.
So if
Yes.
you take away that economic intellect from
Hmm.
students at young ages,
Yes.
where you
Yes.
have the reading proficiency low,
Yes.
uh, you have college educators
Yes.
who basically have to do remediation
Yes.
when those high school students go and seek higher education in college.
Yes. Yes.
And now their reading, their comprehension
Yes.
leaves a lot to be desired.
Yes. Yes.
So when they don't understand what you give them the basic instructions
Right.
and
Right.
they still don't understand that, it shows that the education that they received up until that point was lacking. So if you cannot comprehend something that you're reading,
Okay.
and you're not reading,
Right.
you tweeting and you texting, and
Yes.
everything is like emojis,
Yes. Yes.
then how can you have an intellectual conversation when the language that the person that you talking to don't know the definition of the words?
Okay.
Now he says terrace is the most beautiful word in the English language, right? Fine.
Yes.
So people hear that, they wouldn't even go and do a search
Right.
to understand what the word tariffs do,
Right.
how it
Yes.
impacts them. If they're being convinced because they're too lazy to read, or
Yes.
some of them don't understand the significance of being able to read and comprehend, but they're
Mhm.
listening to the person who is supposed to be the most powerful man on the earth saying that this is good for you.
Yes. That's right. Yes. Yes.
Everybody
Wow.
wants what's good for them.
Well.
They've been hoodwinked, they've been bamboozled, they've been had. And now that they realize, why are you going to cut back on pre-K, which is the
Yes.
earliest forms of education? Why are you going to
Yes.
cut back that budget?
Yes. Yes.
Why are you
Makes no
going to
sense.
deprive the youngest children in society of of an education that could
Mm,
prepare them to establish careers
mm,
and not just be educated so they could go and find a job?
mhm,
A
mhm.
job could be cleaning the streets. It's a very important job.
Yes.
A job could be picking up garbage. It's very important.
Yes.
But how
Yes.
many people want to make a career out of sweeping the streets
Yeah.
and picking up garbage?
That's right.
So if you
Yeah.
don't prepare your young people
Mhm,
to seek careers,
mhm,
and they feel that they could only get whatever jobs are being offered
mhm.
because they lack the intellectual. Let
Okay.
me stop.
I know. I think you made it very clear. I've read that the average reading age of average American is equivalent to a person aged 9.4 months old. Can you imagine? 9 years and 4 months old. Wow. Therefore, the majority of Americans have difficulty accessing what we might call tertiary or senior school education. And the majority of Americans are not are leaving schools, what we call schools or colleges, if you like, with qualifications that do not prepare them for jobs of the 21st century. That's crazy. How do you retain the mantle of being the richest and most powerful country in the world if you don't equip your people to maintain your infrastructure? Or are they waiting for that richest man in the world to produce all these robots, and the robots will run the country for you? Maybe that's their end goal, Stephen. Could that be their end goal? To rely upon robots? I'm only I'm hypothesizing. I'm hypothesizing in order to arrive at some logic for this clearly counterproductive series of policy positioning, which clearly is harming the United States of America. Uh, what do you think? Is it the robots they're waiting for?
Well, let me simplify it even more.
Oh, I want you to.
Florida is has introduced legislation, and it may have been passed
All right.
to reduce the legal uh, age for children to work. I think it's
Oh,
going down to either 13 or 14 years of age.
really?
So now check this
Oh,
out.
forgive me, forgive me. Say that again. I'm trying to recognize it. You're saying a child could legally start working at 13 years old in Florida. Is that what you're saying?
That is what the legislation is proposing. And it's either
Oh
13
my
or
gosh.
14. And what that does is now here, look, look how asinine this whole thing is.
Yeah.
you deport the people who are doing these low wage jobs.
Yes. Yes.
Whether they're working on the farms, whether they're driving the trucks
Okay.
to transport foods and product across the nation. Because now some of these drivers who may not have their papers in order, but they're being employed because they could work for lower than union wages.
Yes.
Now that they scared that if they get pulled over for speeding or whatever, they're leaving that. The construction industry,
Right.
which depends heavily on migrants, most of whom are undocumented, now that they are disappearing or being disappeared, either
Yes.
voluntarily or by mandate.
Yes.
So now you have that workforce being depleted, being
Yes.
decreased.
Yes.
Now you have to find people to replace them.
Indeed. Yes.
The MAGA are not interested in going and working on farms.
Right.
They're not interested in doing those low wage jobs.
Right. Okay.
So now the child labor laws are being attacked.
Oh, wow.
Because the reason why the child labor laws were put in operation in the first place was because children were being hired at lower
Yes.
wages to compete
Yes.
for the jobs that their
Oh.
parents
Oh.
would be paid more money for. So you're getting the children to do adult labor, coming back to the whole concept of slavery.
Indeed.
People were working the fields without pay.
Yes.
And the white population just sat back and laughing, not
Indeed.
realizing that those were the jobs that they were supposed to be doing.
Indeed.
So now the parents are saying, but wait, you don't want to hire me to pay me at union wages, but you want to hire my children? And these children could now work overtime and
Yes.
overnight.
Yes.
If they're working overnight,
Can you
what
imagine?
time do they have to go to school?
Huh.
And if you're cutting back on the educational budget.
Wow. So, if I may, Stephen, because what you're describing here is fact. I've been engaged in the research. I'm trying to avoid this being a very technical conversation. I want this to be with yourself a very matter of fact. You know, we don't need to get into the exact figures, etc. What we need to do is just outline, detail what is actually happening using language that the masses can understand. I know you're a good communicator and you've really explained very well what is actually happening in the United States. So we're grateful for this insight. Actually, as regards countries like China, so the Chinese have a very large workforce, and their cost profile, by virtue of the fact that they've just come out of being very much an agricultural society to one to a manufacturing industrial society, but they've yet to reach the salary levels which is common in the United States. Okay, and they don't have those expenses. As a result, they're able to manufacture and export at a lower price than would be possible in the United States. But what I note that over the past 30 years, okay, it is the American oligarchs who have invested in China to take advantage of the lower cost of them imported back here, as it were, into the United States. Okay, it's the American rich, yeah, it's the American wealthy, the American oligarchs who are responsible for the Chinese exports to the United States. Now, it does seem perplexing to me how the Chinese get to blame for producing products, manufactured products at a price lower than is available in the United States. And why is it that the American workers or masses cannot see what is actually happening? It's their, as it were, their proletariat, forgive me, it's their elites, their oligarchs, the rich people who've invested in China manufactured in China and then imported back into United States. Why can I not see that as being what has happened? Or have I got this completely wrong, Stephen?
Well, for folks across the pond,
Yeah.
the Industrial Revolution
Okay.
basically exploited the labor of the Africans.
Indeed. Indeed.
Now, back in the 70s,
Mm.
when you look at television shows like Kojak,
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
you would see the uh, in between the 20s, West 23rd Street up to about West 42nd Street in Manhattan. It was the garment district.
Okay. Yes.
Traffic was a mess
Yes.
because that's where you had the production of cloth. You would have pieces of this cloth being produced in this factory, then they would walk it over to another factory, and
Mm-hmm.
then it was
Yes.
a way whereby
Yes.
the same way that cars are assembled today, you
Yes.
know, is a way that clothes was being manufactured in the garment industry in
Yes.
Manhattan.
Yes. Yes.
Then, as you stated, it was cheaper to produce clothing
Yes.
outside America, so they send
Yes.
it to places like China,
Indeed.
India, Indonesia, and
Yes.
all these other places,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
Just look at the labels on your clothes, and you'll see
Yes.
where I'm talking
Yes.
about. So it
Yes.
was cheaper for other nations with lower wages
Yes.
to produce the same material, which when you pay union labor,
Right.
union wages in
That's right.
America,
Yes.
you had to, it was like the whole concept of tariffs,
Yes. Indeed.
but in a
Indeed.
different light. So
Yes.
if you produce it in America, it will cost like, let's say, $10.
Correct.
If you
Yes.
produce it in China, it may cost 50 cents.
Yes. Yes.
So even though it's being made in China and it's being imported, and
Yes.
the cost of importing the material,
Yes.
those importers will now pay like, say, $5,
Mhm.
but they could sell it for $10,
Yes.
even though it only cost them 50 cents to produce.
Indeed. And to be clear, again, I will keep emphasizing it is the American rich, the oligarchs, yeah, the elites that invested in China to take advantage of the lower cost profile. So the American oligarchs, the rich, the elites could make more profit. Yep, they made more profit. Go ahead,
Have you ever
Stephen.
read the book Capitalism and Slavery by Dr. Eric Williams?
I most certainly have. Most certainly have. Certainly have.
Capitalism was birthed through the enslavement of the Africans.
Indeed.
Capitalism means to say that you're making money off
Mhm.
of the labor of others.
Yes,
And this is exactly what you're talking about with China, right? Now,
absolutely.
in the 70s, in the 60s and 70s, right, especially
Mhm.
in the 1970s,
Yes,
Asians would come to, let's say, New York and walk around with their cameras and just take pictures
that's
of
right.
buildings.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
In the 60s, the main mode of transportation in China were rickshaws.
Indeed. Yes, yes,
Now, look at what China is producing as far as transportation is concerned.
absolutely. Yeah.
From the
Yes.
60s, 60 years later, 65 years later,
Mhm.
look at how Asia has transformed itself,
Absolutely. Yes.
while America is retrograding. It's
Indeed.
going back.
Say that again,
Is
Stephen. Say that again,
forward.
Stephen. Say that again. Say it slowly. You use the word retrograde. I know what it means, but just for the benefit of the audience, I want to make sure you clarify what you mean by retrograding. What do you mean by that?
One step forward, three steps backward.
There you go. Thank you. Well said. That's what I said. He's a natural teacher.
So,
Oh,
so now,
yes, go ahead.
now you see, when these nations
Mhm.
understood how the American economic system worked,
Yes.
they studied it.
Yes.
They had their students come here to America
Absolutely.
and
Yes.
and
Yes.
get that education
Yes.
that some Americans, especially when President Nixon, not Nixon, President Reagan took
Right.
office in 1980,
Mhm.
he basically made free or low cost, especially back then, you can get a college education for like about $2,000.
Yes.
And he was
Yes.
saying, no, you wanted an education, you got to pay for it.
Yes.
Try going to college today.
Yes. Oh, it's.
So
I understand.
what happened is you have the Asians who made sure that their population were
Educated.
that they selected the people that they wanted to basically be highly educated.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I don't want to get into the whole thing with China, how many people they
No.
killed in their society going back.
We're going back. Yes.
But the thing is, they now control the economies of the world
Mm-hmm.
because America, which was the number one economic nation at the time,
Yes.
now owe more money to Asia.
Yes. That's right.
And if the Asians were to say, you know what, these bonds that we're holding for you, we'd like to cash them in.
That's right.
America would go back.
Yes. Yeah. And there is the rub. There is the rub. America. Forgive me. The current president, the 47th president, says he wants to make America great again. Okay. The problem is what he doesn't understand, because again, his education. Okay, that America is already great. Okay, what he should be focused on is how to maintain that greatness will require the cooperation of others. You know, and what I'm astonished by is how easily far too many people in America were seduced by those words. Because we've got parties here in Britain who make similar inferences. We want to make Britain great again, put the great back in Great Britain, and all that nonsense, you know? Well, actually, in fact, greatness will only come through cooperation with others. You have to share that wealth, because those who can buy what you manufacture have got to have enough wealth to make the purchases. If you leave them in poverty, they're not no longer your market. So that's what America has been very good at. That is enabling other countries, just like China, and indeed the Marshall Plan here in Europe, ensure that these economies, and indeed Japan, those economies were able to rebuild and buy American goods and services.
Talking about comprehension, let me ask you a question.
Of course. Oh, I should be asking the questions in my podcast.
No. I have to ask you this.
Go ahead.
What strategies were implemented to make America and Britain great in the first place?
This is investment. This is, in fact, government investment. This, in fact, government. In the case of the Americans and the Marshall Plan, of course, the Americans effectively.
Before the Marshall Plan.
Say again?
Before the Marshall Plan.
Before the Marshall Plan, before the Second World War, you're referring to. Well,
before the wars.
Oh, please tell us. Please tell us. Please tell us. Go on.
Enslavement of the African.
Forgive me. You're quite right. It was the African. Our ancestors. Let's put it this way. Let's keep it personal here, because it really is important. Okay, it is our ancestors forced to work free of charge that truly enriched many of the elites from here in Europe, and of course those who reside in America. That is without a shadow of a doubt. And indeed, in my own country, where I was born in Jamaica, I was brought here as a baby, before Jamaica became independent. At the point of independence, indeed, at the point of independence in Jamaica, okay, the original enslaver families did not have to give up one iota, not any inch of land. They didn't have to give back any money. They gave absolutely nothing back. They retained their economic stranglehold over the country, and they still do today. And those families are now plutocrats. They're now worth hundreds of billions, indeed trillions of dollars. And some of them, when you speak to them, speak far more broad Jamaican than I could ever speak. But they're actually trillionaires as a result of the blood of our ancestors. Say again, please.
Do you remember when sugar was king?
Yes. Say again, please.
Do you remember when sugar was king?
Indeed, yes. Sugar cane, yes. Indeed, yes. And that's how they made their monies. Yes, yes. So of course,
sugar was king at one point.
Yes.
And where was the sugar being produced?
In the Caribbean, yes, here in the Caribbean. And of course, in South America, Brazil, and those Latin American countries. So keep going. Yes, yes.
You see, once like you have states like Florida and other states taking away the history of that precedes Europe.
Yes.
For example,
yes,
they talk about the great Greek philosophers.
Yes.
Then they go to Ethiopia, which is on the African continent. Then they go to Egypt, which is on the African continent, as apprentices. What's
That's right. That's right.
So now, if you have these people who are supposed to be the greatest minds in the world, had to go to the African continent to become the greatest minds of the world, and we are not being taught this at the lowest levels of education.
Indeed.
Which is pre-K, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school. By the time you get to college, your concept of the world is not what they've been telling you.
Right.
Here it is that Christopher Columbus was jailed by King Ferdinand and Queen Elizabeth. That's because of the atrocities that he committed on the Caribbean people.
Indeed. Yes,
yet,
indeed.
In the educational system, he is this great hero.
Yep, that's right. Propaganda.
So if you have a murderer, a rapist, a thief,
yes,
being idolized as this great person, then you wonder why, when children duplicate that mentality, that persona, you want to know where they're getting it from. This is what you taught them in schools.
That's right.
You're telling them about Alice in Wonderland.
Yes. yes.
You talking about a dish run away with a spoon.
Yes.
You're telling them about a cow jump over the moon.
Yes. Yes.
But you don't tell them that Imhotep,
there you go.
one of the builders of one of the pyramids in Egypt.
That's right.
Who is known to be the first or the oldest medicine man, oldest doctor.
That's right. Yes.
Going back thousands of years, but then you say, no, it was a European who was the first doctor.
All right.
So when you're lying to not only people who lack who have melanin, but then those who lack melanin, and the only time that they find out that they've been lied to, only when they got into tertiary education.
Indeed, yes, 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 yes.
And then when you start depriving them of an education by cutting back on the educational budget and saying that they could only read certain books that you want them to read, and if librarians bring those books that are supposed to be forbidden into the libraries, they could now be arrested and jailed.
Can you
bringing those
imagine?
books into the libraries?
Can you imagine? Oh my gosh. Okay. I think
The Bible says, "My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge."
knowledge. Yes.
When the Africans were brought into Europe and
Yes.
America,
Yes.
then they passed laws saying you can't read, you can't write.
Hmm. Yeah.
And if you caught reading or writing, you could either be whipped,
That's
castrated,
right.
dismembered, or
That's
killed,
right. Yes,
sometimes
that's
thrown
right.
into a boiling pot of water
That's
for
right.
learning to read and write.
Can you imagine? Yep, that is true. That's a historical
What were
fact.
they
Yes.
trying to hide?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
The
Clearly.
fact that Cleopatra is not is not Elizabeth Taylor, that is an African,
Yes.
that is one of the greatest pharaohs. One of
Yes.
the greatest pharaohs in life
Yes.
is Queen Hatshepsut.
Yes.
And when the other pharaohs came and took over after her, the other male pharaohs, they started taking away that feminine identity
Yes.
because women were not supposed to be pharaohs,
There you go.
even
Yes.
though there were about 13 female pharaohs.
That's right. That's right.
If you mention that to some religious people today, they would look at you like you're crazy. Why? Because they lack the knowledge, because they weren't taught that. Here it is that the popes, we just lost a pope, right?
Mhm.
The popes in the Vatican pray to a black Madonna and child.
Say that again, Stephen. Say that again. Say that again. Please say
The
it again.
popes in the Vatican
Mm.
pray before a black Madonna and child. Russia has a whole bunch of black Madonna and child. There, there, there,
Mhm.
there are there are Latin American nations that have
Yes.
black Madonna and child.
There you go. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Buddha,
Yes.
the
Yes.
original Buddha had braids.
That's right.
Now he's
That's right.
bald headed.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
What happened to
I,
the braids? Did he get a
I'm
haircut?
gonna pull you back now. Eric, I'm gonna pull you back because you're on a roll. But that roll, I will in the edited version of this put up the facts and references to each of Stephen's statements here, so you can look it up for yourself, validate those statements for yourself. Okay, this is the Motivator show because this is where we translate those words into action. Because success is ours for the taking. You've got to choose success for yourselves.
Do you know that
Returning, can I,
a lot of
before Stephen?
inventions in America
Mhm,
go by black people? The
okay.
escalator, the
Hmm.
elevator, the
Hmm.
helicopter.
Yes.
I could go on with the
And
disc
I'm going to
brakes,
get there.
the
I'm going to get there on that.
saddles for horses, the bridles for horses, the horseshoe. All these are
Yes.
black inventors. The coupling
Yes.
system that keeps the trains that keeps the trains together.
Yes.
When they used to have those trains come together, they
Hmm.
used to have to put a pin in
Yes.
between two holes, but people were losing their hands. A black man came up with a coupling system so that now trains could just pull up,
There you
slam
go.
against
There you
each
go.
other. That interlocks, and how many people know this? The artificial the air conditioning system that refrigerates the food that are
Yes.
transported from us. We came up with that invention.
Another
We
African
destroyed.
invention. Yes. Yes, it's true. Stephen, because
Sorry.
we are going to, we will do a special, it's okay. Don't you worry, because you know what it is. Well, there are many Europeans, both here in Europe and in Africa, who will be hearing this information for the very first time. And they're, first of all, going to be in disbelief because they've lived an entire lifetime of indoctrination by their elites. Okay. What we need to do is demonstrate the evidence. And as each of your statements, I'll put a reference in the commentary so that they can go look it up for themselves to validate each of your statements. And we know what's happening in Africa right now, in Zimbabwe, okay, in Maxwell Chikumbutsu, and his ability to harness electricity from radio waves, okay. We know that there's another inventor who's been able to successfully interface machine with his mind so he can control the machines directly, another inventor. But each of those inventions are being currently suppressed by big corporations and indeed states, I'm sure, around the world, because they are a quantum leap in the human understanding of what is possible. Indeed, that's a feature of being African. We have amongst us, amongst some really silly people, not so bright people, but we most certainly, when it comes to extremes, have most certainly higher levels of genius amongst our ethnic group than any other ethnic group. And that's, again, I'll put a reference in for others to do those analysis for themselves. But the United States, and I want to conclude in the last minute or two of this interview, because it's gone slightly longer, but you've been sufficiently animated and engaging that I wanted to listen. We want to listen to you, Steve, so it is well. My last question are United States. It has to be this. Bearing in mind what you described, that the elites, the oligarchs, the rich are duping the masses, okay, is it possible for America to survive the 47 presidents?
Yes.
That's all I want you to say. That's what I want you to say. You don't need to go into detail because they're watching this for obvious reasons, okay? The details, I'll leave it to you and your fellow Americans to work out privately amongst yourselves. I can only tell you, on behalf of the global community, we're rooting for you. We need you to succeed. We need America to come back into the League of Nations, to become a part of the world partnership of nations. Because the world will be poorer, and I mean in many ways, if America were to retrieve into isolationism. Okay, and America most certainly will be poorer if it succumbs to the types of regime that Germany had fell foul to, the Nazi regime in Germany. I see elements of that in this particular presidency. I see elements of it. I'd invite them to suggest otherwise to us, of course, but I see elements of it being present. But I hope that you and your fellow Americans will resist what is clearly behavior that runs against what is a great constitution, a written constitution, going against that constitution. And it's hoped that you Americans will uphold your constitution and minimize the negative impact that this 47 presidents has on America right now and into the future. I wish you all well. Mm-hmm.
If this president was to ask me, what can I do to implement the Make America Great Again strategy? My number one recommendation to him would be study President Traore.
Absolutely.
Ibrahim Traore.
Absolutely. Burkina Faso. Yes.
If he was to do the things that President Traore of Burkina Faso is doing for his nation,
yes,
believe me, people would be begging the elected officials to change the constitution so he could run a third term.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That's a really good point on which to close this interview. Yes, all countries should have a leader of the caliber, the visionary, the compassion, yeah, the foresight, yeah, the intelligence of captain. I use the term captain deliberately because he's still simply earning a captain's salary. But President Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso, long live that great man, as an exemplar for leaders worldwide. Praise
and
Jah,
believe me,
Rastafari.
there's been so many coup attempts on him.
Oh yes, oh yes. Yes, don't worry, he's well prepared. He's mentally prepared, clearly physically prepared for all comers. Okay.
Let me just add this real
quick. Okay. Yes.
After the coup, President Traore kicked out the French.
Yes.
Not one bullet was fired.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
One of the first things he did was take control of the mining industry.
Yes. Yes.
Now, for those of you who may who may be proficient in math, take this into consideration. Burkina Faso is producing over 1,000 pounds of gold. I believe
Yes.
that's maybe on a monthly basis. I'm not too sure.
Well, a monthly. It is monthly. It is monthly. Yes.
Right? Now multiply that almost 1,000 pounds of gold by $3,500 an ounce
Wow.
on the open market.
Yeah. There you are.
Do the math.
It runs into. Yes.
President Traore, he basically established funds so that former civil workers will have a pension, that they will
Yes.
get free medical
Yes.
services.
Yes.
He's building factories because
Yes.
what he did is he bought 1,000 tractors,
Yes. That's
which he
right.
gave to the farmers.
Yes.
So
That's right.
when they harvest the crop,
Yes.
he has factories for that food to be processed,
That's right.
some sold fresh, some packaged and sold both locally and
That's right.
exported.
That's right. That's
He
right.
also has a meat processing uh,
Oh, Stephen,
facility.
Stephen, we're focused on Burkina Faso, and we may get you back again. We'll talk about these other matters, but I really want to keep us focused on United States of America, because of course, what we want to ensure is that the ordinary people, people like yourself, the people who care, have not lost faith and have got a vision for the future, and are determined that this 47th president is impact on America is minimized once you get him out of office. Okay, and I'd like it to happen legitimately. I don't want to see any killings. Okay, we want it to happen legitimately. Okay, so that the integrity of the American democracy, indeed, it's your constitution, is maintained. Because I know that people like him would want to create chaos so that he can rule indefinitely because of the chaos in the country. Because that's what I'm anticipating he will do. He will attempt to create chaos so he can legitimately rule. Suspend the general election because of the chaos that he's wrought in the country. His people, his agents across the country have caused amongst the populace. That's what I'm anticipating. That's the sort of standard playbook for people like that. So I'm saying it, and I'm an amateur overseas. I'm pretty sure you guys locally can see what he's planning to do to rule by decree thereafter.
Let me ask you
But
one final question.
of course,
Since you're so optimistic about how articulate and intelligent this gentleman could be, right? That bridge behind me, I would like to sell it to you. You interested?
oh dear, where's that? That's on the west coast, isn't it? Where's it? San Francisco?
That's the Golden State Bridge
There you go. Yes,
in California.
I got you. I got you. That,
So since you have since you have such a positive outlook on our president, that bridge is for sale. Let me know when
okay,
you'd like to.
but Stephen, the reason why I'm optimistic for the future is because we've got people like yourself who live in America, care about America, and determination, and you're very determined that America would not become a quasi-Nazi state as destroyed Germany. Okay, and I'm confident, therefore, that your determination, your raw intelligence, your compassion for the country will be enough, indeed, more than enough, to counter those who seek to take America back to a time in which all Americans should be ashamed, where you relied upon the forced labor, the brutalization of another group of people in order to make money, profit out of them.
Final question to you, sir.
Of course.
I'm sure you're familiar with the story of the British Tea
Oh
Party,
yes.
right? I mean,
Oh yes.
the Boston
Yeah,
Tea
yeah,
Party,
yeah. Boston Tea Party. Yes.
right? Whereby the tea was dumped in the ocean,
Yes.
which led to the American Revolution
Yes. Right.
and
Yes.
America's independence from Britain.
Yes. Mhm. I would say to no, it's okay. I pause for a moment. I think I had to respond to you. Look, I remain optimistic. We don't want to discuss strategies here, but I'm optimistic. I've had many a discussion. I'm noting my colleagues from the West Coast. By the way, um, I note that there's real intelligence there in the US. People with real foresight. Yep, far better technicians than myself. Okay, who can anticipate what people of this ilk, the 47th president's ilk, and those around them are likely to do. Okay. And I'm confident, therefore, that you have what it takes to retrieve America and indeed for it to return to its economic and social greatness that it did have recently until this president destroyed it almost overnight. But I'm going to close there because you're far more animated than I anticipated, Stephen, I must say, but it is well. But what you have indicated that it is right for us to have a series of podcasts which will focus on United States. Others may be a little more technical. Others will address a single subject in respect of United States. But it is right for us to do so. But it is right for the global community to take an interest in what is happening in the United States of America. So I just remind people that United States of America has the largest nuclear arsenal of any country in the world. Okay, and that in
When
itself,
America catches a cold, the
yeah,
rest of the world catches pneumonia.
there you go. And it is that which we must prevent. Okay, that is preventable. It is not inevitable. I say again, that is preventable. It is not inevitable, which is why the multipolar world is going to be the way in which part of the inoculation against the corruption and the deceits and the really anti-human behaviors. Yep, I use the term anti-human behavior that we've seen exhibited by the oligarchs, the rich, the elites of the United
I
States
know
of
we're getting
America.
ready to wrap up, but let me conclude with this, right?
Of course.
The world is not pushing back against America. They're pushing back against the leader.
Indeed.
And
Well
until
said.
that could be understood, this kind of dialogue may seem to be anti-American
Mhm.
when it's not.
No, no.
It's there's a leader who keeps shooting himself in the foot, in the
Yes,
knees, in the
yes,
hips,
yes.
but he claims to be the best.
We both laughed. We both laughed.
I think
Anyway,
it's time.
look, it is good for us to laugh and to end in that way. It is good for us to laugh, but the situation is serious. The situation is could be described as being dire. In fact, the situation is one that none of us can be complacent about because it is extremely serious. It is extremely serious. But I want to give you and all the right-thinking Americans an applaud, an encouragement
Appreciate that.
that you'll keep up the fight. It's a good fight. Defend your constitution. Defend America's role in world affairs. Defend America against those who will bring America into disrepute. And
Well,
most
that's why
certainly,
I and about a dozen other people will be receiving awards later today for the
okay,
work that we've been doing. We've been recognized for that.
brilliant,
And
brilliant.
if we weren't out there doing the work,
Okay.
then there would be no reason for these awards to be presented.
Stephen, thank you. If I may, I'm going to give you an applaud. I need to give you an applaud. I want to recognize you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. From the global community. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's good to hear a voice of reason from the United States of America. I say unto you, good night, good morning, and praise Jah, Rastafari. Good day to you. Good day, good day. Peace and love. Okay. There you go. Wow. Oh, that was quite something, wasn't it? Okay. I tried to make sure it didn't get involved in a lot of technology and so a lot of technical jargon and so on. I want to make sure of that. But I hope the reasoning was sound. As I said, in the re-edited version of this interview, each of his statements will put an appropriate reference that you can check out for yourself to validate the veracity, the accuracy of those statements. So we're not here to mislead. We're here to raise consciousness, provide good information so we can raise consciousness. And in doing so, you're in a much better position to make good decisions, both for yourself, your family, your neighborhood, the wider communities. Okay, and in doing so, the United States will come back into the fold amongst the League of Nations. We care about you. We care about you. Your interest is our interest. I say that to all Americans. To all Americans. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. And thank you, Stephen, for being an outstanding respondent to our questions. Okay. So he said those are complex questions, but they possess simple responses. I like him. I like him. If I may, and taking these podcasts forward, if you're a viewer for the very first time, please, we really would welcome an acknowledgement from you that the content of this show you found useful, and you'll therefore be able to recommend these content to your network, to your family and friends. Okay, please subscribe here on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe or give us the thumbs up. Give us the thumbs up, even better still, just so that it's clear to the YouTube algorithms that the content you've seen today you've found to be useful, insightful, and provided the basis for your own personal discussions with your family and your friends and your network. Okay, we are stimulating positive debate, discussions amongst yourselves. It helps us out, and I say this in closing. We are very much a channel devoted to, as I said, raising consciousness, providing good quality information provided here. It's information that's been validated, checked, to ensure it is accurate. I do not invite guests who are likely to make statements which are outlandish and not verifiable. Just so we're clear. But the purpose of these podcasts is not simply for you to receive that information and make, the purpose is for you to translate these words into action. Because ultimately, success is yours for the taking. And if you live by that as part of your everyday discourse, you, together with us, will transform the world. Because the world can be made a better place, a more wholesome place for everybody, every human being, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your social status or education, regardless of your religious affiliation. The world can be made a better place. It just takes your courage, your conviction. Yes. And if unsure, hold hands of others who you believe are courageous. And I'm assuring you their energy, their confidence will seep into you, enable you to be the person you want to be. There's no more depression, no more despair. There's hope, there is a future. You heard what he said. When I asked the question, can you survive the 47th president? Can you get America back to its original state? It's simple 3-letter response. Yes. 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 Absolute certainty. Absolute certainty. And with that certainty, we can move mountains. With that certainty, you can move mountain ranges. With that certainty, good can overcome the evil that prevails. Because there's a great leader, both in Ethiopia and indeed from Mozambique, who said, "It's evil only prevails when good people stand by and watch or remain silent." I know you're a good person. That's why you're watching this podcast. Yeah, I know you're a good person. You can make the difference. And if you're unsure, I say again, hold the hand of others. So you gain from them that strength that you need. And I say to others, particularly those who are Pan-Africanists here, who seek the unity of African people worldwide, okay, I just want to remind you that there is a request that you all come together under a single treaty. I'll put up on the screen. You recall this treaty. This treaty, of course, has been set out by it's a Pan-African treaty of the 6th region of the diaspora. This is the AU, 6th region, the African Organization of African Unity. Okay, so this is important, really important, very, very important. Do not neglect it, okay? And if in doubt, again, I say to people, if in doubt, seek out the advice of others, those who you respect, yep, those who can provide you with the advice and guidance that you need. Be in no doubt, if good people rally together, evil cannot thrive. I say again, if good people rally together, evil cannot thrive. And much of the poverty and degradation you see in the world can be overcome. It does require you not to simply wait for others to take the lead. You can take the lead as well. You know, you can take the lead as well. You can take the lead as well. All righty. I think that's my lot for now. But I welcome your feedback. Okay, you don't forget to leave a thumbs up or leave a comment where you can. Okay, we welcome your thoughts, your ideas, but this channel will not give up the fight. Okay, this channel will not give up the fight. Okay, now those of you who wish to obtain a copy of the Pan-African Treaty of the 6th region of the African diaspora, here is the email address. The email address to write to obtain a copy for yourself and your organizations is as follows: Pan-African Treaty, African Diaspora, without the A at the end, you see, without the A at the end, at gmail.com. Not sure why they missed the A out, but anyway, there you go. Pan-African Treaty, African Diaspora, without the A at the end, at gmail.com. Right there, that's the email address to request a copy of the treaty, okay? And once you have that, you can sign and return it to them. They need at least 2,000 signatures, authenticated signatures, in order for the treaty to become enacted, okay? And Safiri was very, very clear in his last podcast that it requires people who are inspired and they've got hope for the future, because you are the change makers. If we take responsibility for the change in world affairs, the world will be transformed. If we take responsibility for a change in world affairs, the world will be transformed. All right, then. I think I've said enough. And I know that these shows are sometimes light, but today we had to really get to some of the nuts and bolts of what's happening in the United States of America, because of course it will impact the entire globe. It is impacting the entire globe. We're all affected. Therefore, we cannot ignore what's happening in the United States. And we will again in two or three strong's time do a further episode on the United States and invite other guests to appear just to talk about that country, because we need to understand what is happening there, because we have a vested interest in sane people being successful. So I say, until the next strong, I remain the motivator.